Hello, everyone. Welcome to Synchronic Saturdays with Meghan and Crystal. Today, we're going to be diving deep into introverted sensing and the spectrum of that behavior. We're going to be using terms such as high vibe and low vibe. And if you are confused at all about what we mean, I would suggest go to Synchronic Saturdays episode 14, where we explain. But the gist that you need to know, if you are too lazy to go back and watch all of that, is that most personality type and function descriptions are talking about the middle of the bell curve of behavior. When the cognitive function actually exists in your brain as a cognition, it's not directly correlated to any behaviors. So what we're trying to do is explain the breadth of behaviors so that you could then sort of see yourself or your friends amongst the spectrum, as opposed to just a singular point on the spectrum definition. So, how's it going today, Crystal?
It's going well. How about you?
It is
good as I'm drinking water.
Oh, look at you. I have a kombucha here today, and I have some coffee. Yeah.
We're trying really hard to not just be typical NFs that don't eat and sleep and just talk about things all day, so.
Yeah, for sure. So in the last episode, when we talked about FI, I took a lot of notes, and that seemed to work well for me to not interrupt you as much. And so do you want me to ask a question, or do you think you can just sort of take it away on SI?
How about let's sort of, you can ask a question so you can steer me in the right direction, and then I can take it away.
Okay. For those wondering, I'm not always just being a demanding bitch because I'm a demanding bitch. It's actually because EPs like Crystal enjoy when the J is giving you direction, right?
In some way, yeah, I'd say. It just gives organization to you being a demanding bitch just by virtue of existing. So at least if you say what you desire without holding it back, it's easier to understand. It's like the lesser of two evils.
So how about we start with this question? Crystal, why did you want to do introverted sensing today? Have you been thinking about it lately?
Yeah, I have been. And I've been thinking about it for quite a long time, for maybe about 6 months. Because in general, I think introverted sensing gets a lot less love in the MBTI community than any other function. It's kind of mysterious because we don't have as many SJs in the community compared to every other type. So I just don't think people know a lot about it. I have so many SJ friends that are incredibly intuitive and incredibly interesting with their viewpoints. They're not just these grizzled old dictators maybe you stereotype your parents' generation of SJs as. SJs who are new and hip and young are actually quite insightful.
I have a theory about that, actually. It's because I think with the information age, we have access to so much media that there's a wider NE breadth of information for them to pull from. Whereas back in the day, SJs like to stick with what they know, and now what you know could be anything. So,
yeah. And so, it's people just seem to mistype sometimes SJs a lot because they don't seem all these descriptions in the community are from years and years ago when it was really different and stuff. So, yeah, SJs are essential to helping us, mobilize. And I've done a lot of videos about SI. We've also talked about it on this podcast, but I was just thinking about how maybe a way to define low and high vibe or SI could help people better type SJs when they see them, because you can't really rely on the same metrics from years past. So I think defining the spectrum of SI in general, how it manifests in every type, might be helpful also for people to see its use, because it's certainly been useful for me to try and figure out how it can help me be a better person in a way that I don't think MPs really have conceived of how. So
So something that we have been discovering, so for those of you who are watching this podcast, you'll probably notice, or watching or listening, because this is on iTunes if you didn't know, link below, you're sort of getting to observe Crystal and I in real time bounce back and forth the way that we sort of come up with our theories in this stuff, because she has different functions than me. And what we discovered in the FI one is that low vibe FI and is more closed, and high vibe FI is more open. And I know that was the same thing with TI. And so I'm starting to think that there's a theme of how open you are versus how closed you are for each function. Sorry. Okay. Sorry.
That makes sense.
My mind's sort of elsewhere. But one other thing I wanted to just say is that for TI, no matter how open or closed it is, no matter how high or low it is still focused on the truth. And whether or not what it's saying is true, it's going to still spark people thinking about truth. And same with FI, it's about what matters. It's gonna, no matter how good it's,
or how, no matter how high or low,
no matter how ethical what they're saying it matters is, it's still going to make you focus on that. And so I sort of am seeing a pattern here that maybe we can apply to SI, is that, lower vibe SI is going to be more stubborn and more closed-minded and more, this is the way it is, and be way less.
Because this is the way it's always been, or whatever.
Yes. And something I was asking Crystal about, and those of you know, I, as an ENFJ, SI is my blind spot. So again, Crystal recommended doing this video today, and this is the one that is the hardest for me to grasp, because in general, SI is hard for me to grasp. But something I was thinking about is that it seems like higher vibe SI has like a strong faith in things that they cannot see. And I don't know if that's true.
I think so. And I can kind of parallel that to NI. Because I also have some thoughts on recently realizing what bad NI memory looks like. So I think maybe we can kind of parallel things there. But first of all, to go back to how you're saying that TI, no matter where it is on the spectrum, makes you assess what the truth is, and what's true or not, and high or FI, no matter if it's high vibe or low vibe, makes you assess what matters. I think SI, no matter where it is on the spectrum, forces you to assess what has been, what your life has been in general. You have to assess what you have put your faith in, what stabilizes you, everything. I think that's why it's hard for an NJ to, trust SI, which can be good and bad, because I think NJs do this spiral that annoys the hell out of me that no SI user has ever done. And I can go into what that looks like too. Yeah, I think SI is, you have to assess what you've put your faith in, essentially. It's very different than judging what you put your faith in, because to me, faith is about what you see or don't see. It's about perceiving. That's how faith has always come off to me. I don't think it's you judge whether something is true or false or not. That's what you put your faith in. Faith is literally the eyes, the lens. So I think SI is a lot about faith, and NI seems more about what spurs you to take action in a certain way. But
wait, so what do you think about this? FI, what matters? TI, what's true? SI, where have you been? NI, where are you going?
Yeah. And you could argue that with SI, to figure out where you're going, you have to know where you've been. And with NI, you can't know if where you've been matters in the scheme of your life unless you know where you're going or something.
And also, as you can notice with all of these introverted functions, it's very you focused, because introverted functions are very subjective and personal.
Yeah, it's like an archive for you. So, okay, we've talked about SI before. I define it as an archive of every sensory impression I've ever had. So I keep memories very close to me, etc. But I think low vibe SI is when you're so stuck in those images, but you haven't computed what they mean, and you just can't. So, okay, something I realized recently was similar to how S users have really bad SI and users have really bad NI, but this manifests more as a memory thing. So like, for example, I keep a journal very religiously and consistently, and I sometimes won't notice that like certain events happened after other events of significance. Like if you ask me which dates these events fell on, I can tell you, but I wouldn't compute what caused what. So like, for example,
I'm the opposite.
like, okay, hypothetically, it's like, let's say I wrote a blog post or something about something, and then that person started acting weird to me. I might forget that a reason why they're acting weird to me could be that they read my blog post or something. Like I could literally forget that kind of sequential significance. I would only know the pieces of, oh, I wrote this blog post on June 15th. I saw that person again on June 16th. Like I would have that down lock, but I would not have, if something weird happened or something, like I wouldn't be able to connect those dots. Just as how like, you know, maybe an NJ or something could connect those dots but forget what the dates were or something.
So yeah, I think an important thing to bring up is the whole concept of memory, because a lot of people connect SI with memory very closely. But what I would say is that SI and NI are both impressions that people have based on the way that your world has always been. And there are things that you see that maybe not everyone else sees, but you see because that's the way it's always been. And so both NI and SI could be stubborn in this way, but the things that we are going to hold close, the impressions that we're going to hold close are different. Where SI is going to remember the actual sensory events, NI is going to remember the meaning of those events. And so, NJ, and so I think a lot of people talk about SJs having wonderful memory. And I've even seen conversations like this happen on Twitter a lot, where people with SI are very firmly saying, no, it has nothing to do with memory. And that's true, I would say. But then I think a lot of NJs are then confused, because it's like, then how come all of my SJ relatives have scarily accurate memory? And
I think it's like,
I have that question as well, because it's like, okay, it's not memory. Then how come you guys are so freaky about memory? And so I think it's a slightly different focus.
Yeah, like I think memory, like linguistically in our society, we associate memory with like sensory imaging as opposed to intuitive imaging. And in my life, intuitive imaging has become more important to me, and it's become a more essential part of memory, in my opinion. So I actually don't think anymore that I have good memory per se, unless you define it by like the conventional, like, do you remember like fun facts? Remember like play-by-play conversations? That's only one half
the impact of
that's only one half of reality, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, because
I remember how you changed my life ever since we became friends.
Oh my God, you're so
and that my understanding about Myers-Briggs completely shifted, because I went from just thinking of it in my head to then having an actual real life friend to talk to about it.
Yeah, we'd be walking down the like college campus and be like, what about that? What about that?
We would go to like IHOP at like midnight and then like type the waiter or something.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was so fun back in the day before I had my eyes opened permanently to the fact that
I don't remember what month we became friends. Do you?
I don't know, because I met you in April, but then like I think I talked to you more in July. How could you forget? It was like sorority formal season and like
I knew what I was. See, this is just an example. Like I knew that it was some event that was important, but I didn't remember what event or what time.
Okay, so
but
like
this is an example.
So to me, even though I have SI and like I can like literally calculate dates like and what day of the week they fell based on just random ass, like I have really good SI for ENFP. Like I think I'm better than most SI users at it.
I do. The only time I remember SI is I remember like January 18th 2015.
Yeah.
Is that the right date that
I think so. Yeah, actually, it's so funny.
It was right before your birthday, right?
It was like the day before my birthday. I'm 20. When I was turning 20-year-old, and now I'm 20.
It's like the one SI date I have forever in my mind, and even whenever I said it out loud, I don't remember.
That's so interesting. No, but okay, like for me, like whenever I'm telling a story with SI, the one thing an NJ will say would be like, wasn't that right after blah blah blah? and I'll be like, oh shit, it was, or you know, like they'll like say something intuitive that was important that happened before that like plays into why I'm even telling the story, and it'll blow my mind. It's like that's the one thing they remember, and I'm just like shit. But I think that I put more weight on NI memories because I think that like there's this like bias that NJs have bad memories. Well, no, they just have different memories.
Yeah.
And because I just think like my fucking mom won't remember the order of the guys I liked or some shit. Like she won't remember like it's like, you know, seems so like vague, but to me she legitimately doesn't remember who came first or who didn't.
That's so
like,
weird.
and I'm just like, how could you not? Because
theme.
they all played, yeah, and see, you remember because the theme built, and that's like an example.
Yeah.
I think like it's like easy for me because I can somewhat access NI and SI to like piece things together, but I just think J's just don't have both, and so I just noticed the shortcomings of SJs a lot. But like to tie that back to like low vibe SI, low vibe SI like refuses to like believe in anything but what it's experienced. And back to how even though you can have like a great sensory memory, if your intuitive memory is like shit, your reality is going to be very easily distorted because you could just shift around and gaslight yourself about the meaning of those sensory events. It's like you can just like it's like you have these images but there's no audio, there's no color to it, so then you like can like put any music to it. You can be like, it's a scary movie we're watching, or it's a happy movie. Like if you've ever seen those like movie trailers where if you change the music the entire mood shifts and you just can't look at the images the same way. Ooh. That's like how SI without NI is. Like I will literally be like, what was true? Like, was my interpretation correct? What was my interpretation? All I remember is what they said. I don't remember like what my impression of that was. Like I can't remember in real time.
I think high vibe SI has a better control over how they want to interpret those memories. And,
yeah, because low
vibe SI feels stuck in every way. Like they use those memories as an excuse to not move forward. And
yeah, and see, the thing about why SI won't move forward is because until we have a secure impression of what the events that have happened in our life means, we can't even see forward or something because it's just too cloudy. Like until I know what my life has meant based on all these confusing sensory images I have that don't make sense with like every single theme 100%, I just can't move forward because I can't trust my intuitive impression of them. And that's so, like I think about
does it just feel like you are that life is just speeding by? It almost seems like you're like constipated with sensory reality. You don't know how to make sense of it. Like it just happened and you haven't processed it.
Yeah, because like when you're constipated, to use the actual real life thing, your bowel system isn't letting you release the tension that's building up in your bowels because there's just so much fucking poop and stuff. so I think when you have NE, you just have so much imaging and like so much you can't like filter correctly and like streamlined into like a formation for it to go out.
And SI connects
like in
with
an orderly
NE.
way.
SI connects with NE, and I don't know if you realize how much control you have over what story your life is. Like you can use NE to paint the story.
Yeah, SI. I think SI thinks there's only one story, but it doesn't know which one it is, as opposed to there's multiple stories, and that's why it's confused all the time.
Well, do you want me to tell you my subjective impression of some of the worst SI behavior from a very biased NJ? And then
yeah, sure. And let's just try to tie it as like low vibe SI.
Because that's what I want to say, like low vibe SI. Because I was just telling Crystal this earlier, but same as what we talked about in the TI video, that we think that, for example, Crystal as a TI blind spot, whenever you see people using low vibe TI around you, you just sort of turn the other cheek and you aren't as bothered, but it bothers me a lot because I then react to it because TI is my inferior. So for this, I was realizing similarly, I don't super react to low vibe SI because I don't view it as real. I see it as delusional. And so it doesn't affect me. But at the same time, my theory here is that whenever I use SI, it is only high vibe SI. And I think that Crystal, when you use TI, it is only high vibe TI. I don't think any EFP is, and this is sort of a bold statement, I guess, but it's like, I don't think any EFP is ever going to just like be super critical and like closed-minded with their thinking.
Yeah, I don't think I'm like not good at like being petty and like taking a shot at someone without feeling the impact in my own FI of what have I done? You know, like
Yeah, and I think that like our own preferred functions sort of can inhibit us from getting like completely stuck in the it's almost, and if it's your blind spot, it's almost like your blinders are on, protecting you from that sort of thing. And like for me, I don't think I'm ever gonna get. So I guess let me explain what I think low vibe SI is, well, it just seems so fearful to me. And Crystal, I really want you to interrupt and correct me because I feel biased in saying this but it just seems so fearful and so delusional and like so.
Yeah, low vibe. I mean, but I agree. So
I know
because I've been there, and I think maybe you're just uncomfortable because you're like using TE sort of to say it like it is. Well, but I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. If I disagree, I have no problem cutting you off. But I'm
okay,
because I'm curious. So don't.
So
worry.
To me, I think that low vibe SI has no concept of the way that people in the world is evolving, and so
that's true.
They stick to what has happened, and then they want to apply that experience forever. But they forget that we as humans don't plateau. We actually are always going up. And if you are
we? I'm like, yeah. Are we though? Because I don't know. See, I don't know that because that's like a super NI thing to have faith in.
We're always evolving, always. That doesn't always mean that.
That's true. I guess we have evolution.
That doesn't mean that we're gonna have no problems. It just means that the problems are changing. We're always sort of like, there's always, over time, there's more technology that we have. Like, even if it causes problems, it's still just like the learning curve of keeping up with the way that we're. So SI will have their experience and then they'll really trust it and then they'll attempt to apply it forever. When I don't think it, I think it can be very disconnected from what the world needs now. And I think that it could be afraid to take risks and delusional in trying to apply something that no longer fits. Like, I see this a lot, like with marketing. And this is something that I talked to my ENFJ good friend about a lot, is that what it used to be like is that what it used to be like with businesses is that people would see, they would do consumer research, and then they would see, oh, these people want this. And then they would do everything they could to please these people and make products for those people. And they didn't have a choice because they couldn't go shop online or anything like that. And so that model worked because they were like just trying to please these people. But people don't trust businesses anymore in the same way. And people are more inclined to go buy things from people that they really trust. And so businesses that are trying to look outside of themselves and make products for people that they are not like are failing. And what the new business model is going to have to be is that you're going to have to make products that you love making, because that's the only way that people are going to want to buy anything from you. And
yeah, because if it's a match, then they'll like buy it. But either way, you can't really meet one size fits all need anymore, because these are so
for example,
different.
My friend works at a large corporation that is like a movie theater company, and she's frustrated because the name of the game for so long has been, don't piss off anyone. We need all the customers that we can have.
And my God, yes. As someone who was working for an SI based company, in my opinion.
And so the idea is, let's make really generic ads so that we don't piss anyone off, so that they don't whatever. But then who are you serving? If you are just saying nothing, if you are not talking to anyone, people are not going to go to you anymore. People have more control now. They can go on Netflix. They don't need to go watch your movie. That only worked whenever people had no choice but to go to what was in their area. So I have a feeling that a lot of you guys listening are going to already sort of know what I mean. And I'm sorry for going on that NI rant. But the thing is that 50 years ago, if you learned marketing, you learned that the name of the game is to not piss everyone off. And that could be
that is fear-based. That's super fear-based, though.
But the thing is that back then it wasn't fear-based. It was accurate. But if you don't open your eyes and see how things are evolving, then you don't realize that what used to be true is now delusional. And so that's what's, I think, hard for SI, like low vibe SI, is that you find comfort in the memories of when that used to be true, and you don't realize that it's no longer true. And whenever NI is trying to get you to let go of it, it's not saying that's never been true. We're saying it's not true anymore, and that's okay.
But see, SI like doesn't know how to like gauge when the truth has changed per se. Like with SE, you know what I mean? Like it's like SE just knows when it's time to go, and we're like, wait, what? You know, like we're still on the fucking train. Like, you're like, train stopped.
And we can do the same thing with journalism. Like, I think what's annoying, you've worked in journalism, I've worked in journalism. The thing that's annoying about it is that, do you not realize that people aren't reading newspapers anymore? Hello, get with the program.
Dude, as someone who literally just left a company that like still is print first, digital second. Like, like
exactly.
It's like not enough that you're in newspapers, like you're an actual like trying to do newspaper first, not like, it's like, oh my God, it's like run by all these like SJ straight white men. And the company before June, like when I first joined it in March of last year, in June it got sold to these SJs, but before that it was run by, I think, NJs, and they were like, you know, balanced more with like politics and like, let us do what we want. And then they were like, we ran out of money though, it's time to move on. And I'm like, bye. So, and then these SJs come and they're like, we're gonna like bring back newspapers, and I'm like, okay.
I think the thing is that whenever I say the name of the game, I almost feel like that's sort of SI, is like people learn the landscape, they learn how to maneuver it, and then they don't know what to do when the landscape changes. And I guess I want to say, just because it was true before doesn't mean it's not true now. And that's I think low vibe SI is sticking and clinging too long to a reality
that has expired.
That has expired.
It's like you're trying to eat food in the fridge. Like you're trying to eat food in the fridge that ain't good anymore, but you're like, but it was good at some point. No one would ever do that, but I think people apply that to reality all the time.
I think that low vibe SI, whenever I try and let them know that something has expired, they take it the wrong way, as though I am invalidating their entire existence, when I'm not trying to do that. And I think that that's like the fear-based. I see it as so fearful.
Yeah.
I don't.
Wait, but by that logic, then does low vibe TI not like it when I tell them they're being like, what do they react as? Because I agree that like low vibe SI gets hella triggered when you point it out. But I'm like, oh, well, that makes me think that low vibe TI gets triggered when I point something out, maybe, because
it's hard to say. Well, because I think that every low vibe function is like more fearful than not. But I don't know if I'm biased in thinking that SI is more so than others, because
I don't think it's more so, but I think its effect of being fear-based maybe is more salient in some ways, because it's like a perceiving function. Because I think fear-based
fear judging. So
yeah, because fear-based NI, which we'll get into next week, It also has a negative effect, which I can explain probably better, but I don't think you're biased about what you said so far because I see it too. Like, as an SI user who experiences it, I can actually say probably see even more than you. You just know how to verbalize it better because I know and I think in my head about times I've been in that state. So I don't think you're being biased here. Like, I'm an SI user and I don't think you're, I think in the past you've been ruder about SI than you are being now. So like, you're fine.
I mean, low vibe SI is just like hanging on to the baby blanket, like way, way, way too long. Like refusal to
Yeah.
grow, refusal to adjust to the now.
Yeah, and like, I think low vibe SI is just kind of like something that's like permeating people in general right now because it's always harder to let go of what's been, I think, in general. So maybe you just think you see it more, but I think I would say I see low vibe SI epidemics more clearly than low vibe NI epidemics. I have to like really think to myself. So
I
it's
don't
like
think people realize the extent to which I don't relate. Because I think that a lot of times low vibe SI people just see it as a human problem. But that's because there's so many damn SJs that exist.
Like, I think it is a huge, yeah, exactly. I think there's more SJs, but also I think SI users are more in touch with how the human experience has been until now, and NJs have, just by virtue of existing, NJs are kind of above it because you can't be too close to the ground if you want to innovate people forward. But I think SJs are like the gatekeepers to like balance reality, but NJs are the ones that are reminding people to like get out of it too. So it's like you need both, but like, yeah, like, I mean, it took a while for me to conceptualize and conceive of why NJs can't relate, but now I see it more because I know a lot of NJs now, and they're always just confused by random things. And it's more apparent when we talk about like marketing. Like, that was a great example because I think millennials love talking about it and being
I think SJs or like SI in general prefers to take things step by step.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you look at nature, sometimes things are step by step, and sometimes things sometimes things change instantly. And I think that I think SE is the function that is aware of if it's a step by step thing or if it's not.
It like reminds me of like sometimes it might just start raining suddenly, but also over time, like the temperature does get like higher as we get closer to summer and like lower as we get closer to winter. So that reminds me of like SI and SE. Like, you can't just like, you have to like take extra precautions and like get an umbrella if it starts raining suddenly like this, but you can also just put on a jacket and layer on slightly over time if it's just like a weather thing. But the key is to be able to identify both.
An example I would say is like in nature, sometimes there's a random earthquake that destroys a whole town. And I think that low vibe SI would be not aware that something so dramatic just happened. And so they're still going inch by inch. They've already lost. I see that with corporations where it's like they're trying to grow inch by inch. You're already dead. You're already way behind everyone. And you are never going to catch up unless you do something absolutely drastic. And people think that that's risky, but they don't realize that you're actually dying right now. Like, slower.
And I can tell when something's dying.
Well, for example, I have worked for an organization that offers a magazine, and I don't want to get too specific about it, where the subscriber rate, the subscribers are dying faster than we were able to get more subscribers. So that's an extreme example of clinging on to SI, is trying to please this sort of market or something that is already dying. Because you are dying, because your subscribers are going down month by month, because the market you're going for are people who are literally dying.
Do you think as an NFJ, you can say that you can tell when you must innovate or die?
Yes. That's why I feel so do or die. Like, and I mean, it's hard for a lot of millennials in my shoes that are at entry level positions and they see this happening. Like, you don't have to be an NJ to relate, because I even think some like SJs in my shoes would sort of be scared of a similar thing. But but maybe an SJ in my shoes would sort of see the reality and be afraid of collapsing. I guess it's like I can see, it's almost like the Jenga game, you know? It's almost like SJs are so afraid of that Jenga board falling down, but they also trust it so much they keep piling on top. They don't notice if SE comes around and takes something from the bottom. And it's like, hey, this has a time limit. It's going to fall. It's going to fall. And they keep little by little adding to the Jenga board as opposed to just knocking it down and starting over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Huh, this is interesting.
I'm sorry for talking a little too much about NI, but I just think this dynamic between SI and NI is that NI is the change and SI is keeping it safe. And both of these things are important. I'm not trying to say and I mean, we haven't even really gotten a chance to talk into high vibe SI. And I know you have to go in 10 minutes. How long is your phone call? Because I can pause this and we can come back.
I don't know for how long, but then I have to drive.
Oh, okay.
For half an hour. So that's why it's but I feel like you can't talk about one of the introverted functions without talking about the other.
Yeah.
Because it's not as clear cut. You can't point to behaviors or phenomenon. And especially because a lot of these people are NE users, they kind of need the opposite anyway to contrast it with, because they're like, what else is there? And then talk about NI. And so to me, as an NP listening to this, I think it's still helpful to conceptualize and conceive of what low vibe SI is.
Because the thing I think that I have offered to sort of SJ coworkers before, the equivalent to, hey guys, let's knock down the Jenga board or the Jenga tower, where SJs quiver at that idea because they think that sounds dangerous. They think that what I'm saying sounds dangerous and risky, and
it's so interesting. It's so interesting though, because I feel like at the same time, I have met NJs that seem to have resistance to innovating. They get tired out. I don't know if you remember a certain INFJ boss you had, but it's not always. So what would you say accounts for that? Do you think it's possible for maybe for you, because you're ENJ, it's different, but do you think INJs could have low vibe SI?
Well, I think that low vibe, I think INJs would be more likely to have low vibe SI because it's their role function and not their blind spot. And so they would be able to sort of see it. But I think that low vibe NI has some similarities to low vibe SI, where low vibe NI is paranoid about the future.
We can talk about that more,
as low vibe NI is more paranoid about the future and afraid to take a step because of the future, where low vibe SI is paranoid about the past.
And I've definitely been there, where I don't want to move forward and I'm stuck in my own mind and reality, so because I'm so preoccupied with that. Yeah,
both low vibe NI and SI can make you feel stuck, make you feel like you don't know what to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. For the interest of time, because we spent more time talking about the low vibe, I want to spend time just try not to interrupt me. Talking about high vibe SI. So high vibe SI, I think, is what a lot of my close SJ friends have, and I think that on Twitter there's shout out to ESTJ Amy, who talks a lot about how we could use the trends from before to track how humanity has been innovating. But it's observing it. It's not the same as we need to do this is this. It's not like NJs being we need to do something new. SI can be well, you see, back in the day, humans used to be gatherers and hunters, and now the gatherers and hunters have a new manifestation because they do this. It's you have to really solidify what the SI status quo was before to figure out how it might have NE morphed, or to figure out it's not about did something live or die. It's SI users who are high vibes seem to have abundance about, well, the things that I used to believe in still exist now. I just have to look harder with NE to figure out what they are. You know what I mean? I feel I see, and this concept was taught to me by more SJs. They've taught me how to open my mind in a more balanced way. I don't have to forsake SI in favor of NI. It doesn't have to be an either live or die. It has to be think about transformation. And I think that a lot of SJs with a lot of faith and a lot of spiritual beliefs, that's they believe it so much because they can see it everywhere. They can be like, look at how the birds chirp. Doesn't it remind you of how blah, blah, blah? Like, I'm like, that is inspiring. The birds are chirping. I am alive, or something. They know how to be grateful for very, very, very basic principles of living. And
I think High Vibe SI has like the music. They have a control over like the background music or the painting of their memories, and they can sort of switch it to the sort of faith. Like my ESFJ grandmother, right up before she died, she was like, I just know I'm about to see God. I just know it. And she was not a super psychic, spiritual person. A lot of NJs need to like have an spiritual experience in order to even believe in anything else. She just believed. Like, it's so weird to me.
Yeah, like I would say it's interesting because I grew up in the church as a little kid. And like for me, I've just always had faith in like understanding that God was real. Like I just never have, that's never like left my mind. Like I've never been like, I believe in nothing. And I can't even tell you why exactly. Like for me, it's like, oh, I can see everything. It just makes sense. Like it's so weird how it's like we have at least the belief in God. We don't maybe believe in how to like apply it all the time, but we have some solidified like methodology once we believe something. And
High Vibe SI
step
sees the stability in all things.
The consistency of the story of life. Like I think really powerful spiritual SJs can be like, look, the birds have always been taken care of by God for like centuries. Why would I too not be taken care of or something? Yeah. Like I think that's a very SI principle to literally try and like use that. So yeah, like I feel like, let's see, I think a lot of like SJ dreamers, like SJs who are really intuitive and probably even type as NJs, they just really believe in executing their dreams step by step, but at the same time they don't like do this thing that I do with inferior SI where I spiral and believe in like I can't see anything. They'll be like, I can only see what I see right now. And I think if you're low vibe, you get stuck in that. I can only see what I see right now. But high vibe is like, I can only see what I see right now, but there could be so many glorious things beyond the next hill once I climb it. Who knows? Like they truly, like they don't like get stuck in this is how it is at all. They're like, well, this is how it is, but who knows what could be? They have like faith in who knows what could be. I don't have even faith in that much, and I'm an NE dom. Like I'm just like very one track mind.
Maybe some that come to mind, because I think Mr. Rogers, I believe, is an ISFJ, and I think he has High Vibe SI. And I think that Marie Forleo, if you guys follow her, she's like a creative entrepreneur. I think she's an ESFJ with very High Vibe SI. The thing I noticed, I took her course, B School. The thing I noticed with her is it's like, this is everything you need to know, or this is everything you need to consider before starting a business. I was a little overwhelmed because but it's like she laid out very clearly all like the SI things to consider. And I think that's another like High Vibe SI thing.
Dude, I think SI considers so many things.
Oh God.
And, like it considers everything. Like it, like to me, when I'm like anxious, I will like I will still consider things, but I won't want to consider literally everything. I'll be like, I'm mad. Like that boy doesn't like me, but I won't let myself consider. But like, what is this behavior that seems like he likes you mean then? Like I can't be objective where I consider every single possibility for real.
It's almost like a low vibe SI, all that consideration makes you stuck, and high vibe, all the consideration keeps you open.
Yes, because no matter what, SI is always considering, because it has to figure out where it's been and where, you know what I mean? Like it uses where it's been to figure out what is now. So for me, I'm like, what is now? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm so stuck in like not knowing, and like all these details are confusing. But if I sit down, let myself flesh, okay, what is the evidence against this theory I have? What is the evidence for? That's like accessing high vibe SI is like calming down and just looking at it.
SI loves pros and cons.
Yeah.
I love pros and cons. I've never made any decision using pros and cons.
It's funny because I think my INTJ friend likes it too. And I think it's like,
maybe it's not.
I'm
just
not sure.
SI.
I'm not sure if it's TE or SI, but I think like either way, if you have at least one or both, you really like it. Because I feel like, oh my god, like my SJ and TJs like it, but I don't think NFJs like it.
Well, if I ever have to think about pros and cons, all it does is remind me what I really want before I even start writing.
Yeah. So maybe for you, it just helps you access NI and TI faster anyway, like what you already knew. So it's like, okay, like this is a waste of time. But like for me, I'm like, oh, that's what I think. Oh, that's what I'm doing. Whoa. You know what I mean? Like pros and cons lists have always helped me instantly get to where, like, I don't spend time after pros and cons. Like I don't spend time, I don't like sit on a pros and cons list, but making it that like process does help me access what it is I want. It's kind of like the idea that when you flip a coin, you already know which outcome you want or something. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like, okay,
yeah.
If I like heads is milkshake, like tails is tea or something. If you're
I don't do that either. Well, I realized something is that so high vibe SI has faith and is able to consider possibilities in a different way. I realize that NI, low vibe NI, can be very impatient and afraid in a different way. That I think SI has this sort of, it's very slow. Like, it's like high vibe SI can be very calming and grounding. Like I'm thinking of me whenever I was freaking out about like my job, working too much, relationships and stuff, and I would freak out like that, say, I don't know what to believe. I don't have faith in anything. Like, I don't know where I'm going. And like my ESFJ grandma would be like, I've been there. You'll figure it out. Like she had this like trust and would like then tell me her stories of when she didn't know where things were going, and then something happened, and like trying to point out how if you have faith.
Yeah, because she's using her subjective experience to relate to yours. And like, I think it actually works pretty well, like on me when people do that. I don't know if it works on you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm trying to compare like SI and NI. Like high vibe NI can be helpful for sort of pushing stuck low vibe SI along. But on the other hand, when low vibe NI is like having a panic attack about things it can't see, or like wanting everything to be
dude, oh my god, NJs and their panic attacks about what they can't see. I'm just like, what am I supposed to tell you? Like, I don't know.
Then I think SJs can be really helpful for like slow it down, take a deep breath.
They can, because
they know everything.
Because they see the SE that there is a problem more than like me, so they can validate that at least while they say slow down. Well, I'm just like, slow down. Like,
I think SJs are comfortable with like, they own the fact like this is all I know, and they know, they own exactly what they've seen. I think that NPs can have a harder time owning their subjective experience. And
because our NI and SI is lower down. But I would almost say I've gotten better advice about like NI and TI from like an STP friend of mine than like an NFJ, maybe because it's funny because you're saying that she like called me by saying that, because I think it's like, as a fellow J, even though she uses SI, she knows what it's like to literally not kind of know. So it's like a parallel way, like versus as a P, I'm like, all you have to do is just look around some more and you'll see it or something. like I'm, as a P, I just can't relate to the idea of how a J can feel so lost and caved in. And I just think I invalidate J's in a similar way, but like P's can actually help me out of those ruts.
I have one more question that I know you have to go.
Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, it does. I just want to know, is SI force you to think about what is, or is that SE or NI, or like I don't know how to.
No. Okay, so, I get your question. Don't worry. SI forces me to think about what is, and then it makes me realize I don't know what is. And that freaks me out. I don't think NI ever makes me think about what is, because you'll be like, look at where you are, and I'm like, I don't know. But like SI will be like, here's the track you've been on. I'm like, fuck, wait, that was in the past, but I'm here now. But how did I get here? Like, what is this bridge? So it freaks me out like a lot. If someone uses SI, it forces me to evaluate my current reality way more than any NI and SE user ever could. Because like NI and SE will be like, don't you see that you're blah blah blah? I'm like, no. But then SI will like remind me.
Well, that's interesting, because then even like the low vibe SI that's stuck in its ways, it can still force you to see what is because of the contrast to their delusion and what is.
Yeah. Okay, because remember how, you know, I like recently left a job that was very stuck in low vibe SI, and every day I would evaluate how more and more I wasn't a fit for them. And I think that physical sensory experience made me evaluate where I was and where I was going way more than people telling me where I was going with NI. Like the SI of living among low vibe SI made me realize that what I was outgrowing, and so it made me want to quit more and like things like that. So like, yeah, like low vibe SI can provoke you to do that. High vibe SI are from the best, like most spiritual aligned SJs makes me make peace with my past enough to be able to see how I got to where I am now. And therefore, if I know where I am now, I can move forward with confidence, knowing I've had some semblance of a foundation, because SI cares so much about building a good foundation. For me,
I feel like we should do another video about high vibe SI after this.
I think so too. Just because low vibe SI, I think we're supposed to spend a lot of time on it because giving examples is like so important. This is such an under-explained and like function. And even now, it's so mysterious.
Yeah, and people don't talk about the good qualities of it enough, and it's easy for us to say as intuitives all the negatives that we see, and I know,
but it's funny because like the men I've been falling for the most have been like STJs lately, because they teach me so much, even more than sometimes like NJs do, and I feel like I definitely would be down for that, because like I want to like flesh out also how with inferior SI, it's so hard for me to go from like low to high sometimes because I am so reactive off low.
Next week, we should come up with examples of SJs that either in our lives or that we look up to. And really, like, I'm going to try and plan better, but like, I would love to sort of like convince like anyone that is an SJ who doesn't know that they are. I want them to be able to like see themselves in these things. Because there's a lot of millennial SJs. I know a friend of yours that thinks that she's an ENTJ, and you and I think that she's an ESTJ. Like, I think that a lot of younger SJs in particular have a very hard time seeing themselves in the descriptions.
Yeah, my roommate's an SJ too. She's an I think she's like an ESFJ or ISFJ, but she's so spiritual. And she just knows how to explain what it is to be grounded in a way that I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah. The rooftop roads are off the charts.
Dude, no, but actually though, oh my God, like amazing. And I think that groundedness is what we need from more. Like we need more like SJ innovators, because when they care about innovating, as an ESTJ, a love interest of mine, is trying to start his own thing, they do it in such a different way than just intuitives just jumping off the cliff. It's almost like without an eye, they can avoid the pitfalls. But yeah, we can get more into
they can avoid the pitfalls. Yeah,
because there are pitfalls, and we can like get more into that and like have another SI video, and then like segue into talking about NI and the spectrum of NI, which is also mysterious to people because J's don't know how to explain the reality. It takes P's like guess and checking, and then they'll be like, okay guys, here's how you
don't know how to explain. Yeah. P's don't know how to explain.
Like I didn't really know how to explain what FI and TI even was until an FJ, like you asked me so many questions about it that I was like, shit, so not everyone just does this?
A total side note, okay, I was actually thinking the other day about how FE and TE are both so like generalizations, and people, I think especially P's, you guys are so skeptical of that. Then I realized it is impossible to use unless you're also using NI and SI, and so I don't think people realize the depths of, like, for example, in order to use extroverted judging, it's not just, we have such a large, what am I trying to say? Database. Our database is so large because with NI and SI, we're looking so deeply. And I don't think people think about J's as being such deep thinkers. Oh,
I do.
I do? Okay, well
that's why I keep liking them.
It's because for J's, we don't have this sort of deep FI or TI, but we have a deep perception. And so that's why our judgments can be so sort of
absolute. Yeah.
And because we're looking deeper. So we're looking way deeper than you. And so we're able to sort of just haphazardly say things. But the opposite's true.
Yeah, but see, it's funny. I'm like, ew, no. And then I have to think about it later. I'm like, oh shit.
like FJs, for example, we see people so deeply. Either we're using NI or SI. And so that's why we're able to have this sort of massive categorizing of people. and why we're able to make so many shortcuts. So
makes sense. All right, but I have to go for now.
Okay.
But I will talk to you soon.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you guys for watching this video. And here, you can go ahead and go. I'm going to just make a little outro. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please ask all of your questions that you have about SI, and Crystal and I will try and get to it. I'm curious, do you have any sort of role models or famous celebrities that you think are SJs that we can maybe talk about? Because I would love to just sort of do a SJ SI love fest, because I really don't see that often, and it's really easy for me to be biased against SI, and I really don't want to be, but it's because it really just bothers me more than most. And so I think it's important for us to recognize the things that do bother us most and learn from that. So yeah, all of my links are below in this video. If you would like to listen to us on iTunes, I would really appreciate that. If you would, if you'd like to leave a review or something like that. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.